You have been a lifelong Steeler fan. I know you had Tomlin on yesterday. What do you make of that from Bradshaw?
I don't like it, but I'm torn. And the reason why I'm torn is because Terry Bradshaw is a 4-time Super Bowl champion for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's a big reason why so many of us grew up loving the Pittsburgh Steelers. So if anybody has the right to say what he said, he does. And obviously he's a phenomenal announcer and commentator. But I disagree with him. And let me tell you why I disagree with him. How are you going to argue with 116 and 60? How are you going to argue with a Super Bowl championship? How are you going to argue with 3 berths to the AFC Championship game and 2 Super Bowl appearances and 8 playoff appearances in 11 years? I don't think you can do that. There are times that I look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, like last year, and I say they've underachieved. You went 13-3. You got bounced out in the divisional playoff game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm not happy about that. They've lost a wild card game in the past. I wasn't happy about that. But if you look at the totality of Mike Tomlin's record, 116 and 60. With 3 trips to an AFC Championship game, 2 trips to a Super Bowl championship, and the 1 Super Bowl he lost to that bad man, Aaron Rodgers. It wasn't like he lost to Jay Cutler, for crying out loud. He lost to Aaron Rodgers. So when you look at it from that perspective, I'm just saying the knock against Tomlin is basically that he's not Bill Belichick. There's nothing else that you can say about him.
Belichick, by the way, is the only active coach who has won more than one Super Bowl.
I don't like it, and I'm not torn. Here's why. Because as a leader, you have to be true to your personality. If you are a rah-rah type of guy, if you are somebody that wants to be a coach's type of player, then be that person. You don't have to necessarily be Mike Ditka on the sideline. Tony Dungy handled it a lot different with his demeanor, and he wasn't up in people's faces, and he didn't curse a lot to his football team. And if you are trying to behave other than your real personality, it's going to come off phony to the guys in the locker room. They won't like you or respect you at that point.
In the context of this also, and Stephen A., you know this as well as anybody, is Bradshaw left Pittsburgh under unhappy circumstances, and he's had a bit of an axe to grind ever since. I love Terry also, but he's never had a nice thing to say about Roethlisberger. He's not nice things to say about Tomlin. So all of that has to be taken with a degree of a grain of salt. And look, they keep these coaches forever in Pittsburgh.
And in the end, let's be real. Your record has to matter. What you actually do has to count for something. Now, if you want to say that he's not Bill Belichick, I don't think anybody's going to argue with you about that. But that's all you can say. And I think that Terry Bradshaw really needs to check himself in that regard.
But also the Steelers have been a model of consistency that represented excellence, because when we look back over decades, they've only had 3 coaches.
Correct.
So to do that question is almost the question of the Rooney.
And the biggest thing is this. We haven't heard Bradshaw speak that way about Cowher when he was there for 15 years. He had 1 Super Bowl, too.
Yeah.
1 Super Bowl in 15 years.
And it came late in his tenure.
And it came late in his tenure. We didn't hear Terry Bradshaw talking about Bill Cowher. Why are you talking about Mike Tomlin?
Have been flat out better.
They've only had 3 coaches going back to the 60s in Noel and then Cowher. And now Tomlin.